He told me I was his world right before I signed the papers for the car he said he dreamed of since he was 12. Funny how someone can call you everything and mean absolutely nothing. It was a Thursday. Rain on the window, soft enough to pretend things were peaceful. I made us coffee. He walked into the kitchen still damp from the shower, towel around his neck like he was in some movie. He kissed the top of my head, told me I was beautiful, that he couldn't believe he got to wake up next to someone like me. And I believed him. God, I believed every word. I had the paperwork in my bag. The dealership needed my signature because his credit wasn't strong enough alone. He'd been working on rebuilding it, and I told him we'd do it together. Like everything else, we were that couple. At least I thought we were. He talked about the future like it was ours. He showed me pictures of the car every night, red paint, black leather, chrome wheels. Said it wasn't just a car. It was a symbol of finally making it, of all the years he'd been overlooked, underestimated, and I wanted that for him. I really did. When I handed the man at the dealership my ID and signed the dotted lines, my fingers trembled. Not because I was nervous, because I was proud. Proud that I could give him something that made his eyes light up like that. Proud that I was part of his dream. I even took a photo of him standing beside it. His smile was real, his hands wrapped around the wheel like he'd been waiting his whole life to touch it. He looked at me and said, "None of this means anything without you." I didn't know what betrayal felt like until later that night. We were out celebrating. Sushi, his favorite. He drank too much sake. I laughed too loud. I remember thinking I want this night to be the start of everything. His phone kept buzzing. He turned it over every time. I noticed. I just didn't want to notice. And when I excused myself to the restroom, I walked past our table from behind on the way back. He didn't see me. His phone was in his hand, and he was smiling in a way I hadn't seen since the test drive. I told myself it was work, a joke from his brother, something innocent, but something inside me had already shifted. That quiet knowing, that cold ache that doesn't scream, it whispers. Back home, he fell asleep quickly. I didn't. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, replaying the way his thumb swiped across his phone screen. Tender, familiar, not rushed like hiding something, confident like reliving something. I got up and walked into the living room. I sat on the couch in the dark. The dealership paperwork still lay on the side table. I picked it up. My name, my signature, his dream. And suddenly, I couldn't breathe. It wasn't the car. It was what it stood for. What he made me into. A cover. A name to use. A heart to borrow. A body to warm until his life looked good enough for someone else to want. I opened his laptop. I shouldn't have, but I did. And I found it. A photos. A messages. An entire thread with someone named L. Like the letter. Like a secret he didn't even bother to spell fully. I read things I can't forget. Things like, "She's sweet, but you're the fire. And once the car's handled, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out." I think I sat there for hours. Numb. Betrayed doesn't even cover it. It's like your soul stands outside your body watching you crumble and still can't catch you in time. He stirred in the bedroom, called my name once. I didn't answer, because I realized I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to throw anything. That would have made it easier for him. He'd get to call me crazy, emotional, overreacting. Instead, I picked up the keys to the car. I walked outside in my slippers, in the rain, and sat in the driver's seat for the first time. It smelled like him, but it also smelled like freedom. I stared at my hands on the wheel, hands that built a life with him, supported him, believed him, and I whispered, "This was never yours. You just made me believe it was." Then I drove. I didn't even know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay. I passed the city lights, the restaurants we loved, the places we used to go when things felt real, and I wondered how long he'd been rehearsing the lie. I pulled into a quiet overlook just before dawn, parked, sat in silence. I didn't cry. I'd already done that. I just stared at the sky as it lightened, thinking about how easily someone can use the word love to wrap around your throat. The sun rose, and something in me broke, but not the kind of break that ruins you, the kind that finally sets you free. And right there in the car he made me co-sign for, I made my first real decision without him. I pulled out my phone, typed a message, then I drove back home, because this time I was the one with the secret. And when he opened the door, rubbing his eyes, asking where I'd gone, I smiled, just once, and said, I went to get ready for your surprise. And oh, it was coming. He never let me drive it. Not once, not even around the block. But that night he wasn't home. He was supposed to be. He told me to keep dinner warm, said he'd only be 20 minutes late traffic or something. I believed him because I still wanted to. Isn't that stupid? I set the table like always. 2 plates, his wine, not mine. I didn't even like red, but he said it made the meal feel complete. So I poured it anyway, like I always did. Ritual over honesty. Half an hour passed, then an hour. The food went cold. So did my hope. I tried calling once, then twice, straight to voicemail. I stared at the front door like it owed me an explanation. Like maybe if I waited long enough it would open and erase the feeling crawling up my chest. But it didn't, and I just sat there, in silence with a napkin folded perfectly on my lap, and a roast chicken no one was going to eat. At some point, I stopped checking the time. I just stood up, slowly, walked past the mirror in the hallway and barely recognized the woman in it. She looked tired, stiff, like she'd been waiting her whole life for someone who never truly came. The garage was quiet when I opened the door. His car was there, shiny, obsessively clean, red like danger, and fast enough to make him feel like a man again when the world bruised his ego. He used to joke, "You can look at her but don't touch." Like I was gonna ruin it, like I didn't help him sign the damn papers. I don't know what possessed me, honestly. Maybe it was the stillness, the wine I barely touched, the loneliness I could practically taste. But I walked over. I opened the driver's side, and for once it wasn't locked. The keys were still in the little leather pouch he always tossed on the counter when he got home. I grabbed them. My hand shook a little. It was just a car, but that night, it felt like a confession. I sat inside. The seat hugged me tighter than he had in weeks. It smelled like cologne and secrets, like leather and lies. I ran my hands over the wheel the way he used to. It purred when I started it, smooth, immediate, like it was waiting for me, not him. And then, like some strange instinct, I reached into the center console. His phone. Unlocked. I hesitated. Not because I trusted him, but because part of me didn't want the truth. Because once you know, you can't go back to before, to safe illusions. I tapped into the messages, not even hidden. There she was. L. Same as before, but this time her name had a heart emoji beside it. God, how cliché. Scroll. You wore red just for me. You should have seen the way she looked at me when I left. So clueless. Next time, let's take my car. I want to see you in that seat. That seat. That seat. My seat. Now. I couldn't breathe. It was like drowning, but dry. Silent. No one rushing to pull you out. I dropped the phone like it burned, and maybe it did, because everything after that moment was scorched. I sat back, closed my eyes. I thought about how many times I defended him, to friends, to my sister, to myself, every raised voice, every passive comment, every time he made me feel less than, and I called it stress, or just how men are. No, not anymore. I looked around at the dashboard, the stitching, the precision, the care he put into this machine, and not into me. And that, when it hit me, he didn't let me drive it because it was his, not ours. Nothing about it was shared, no matter how much I paid or supported or stayed. Just like this relationship. I reversed out of the driveway, smooth like I'd done it 1,000 times in dreams. I never said aloud. I drove, nowhere in particular, just far enough to let the cold rage settle into something sharper. I passed the bar we had our first date at, the gas station where he once laughed about cheap snacks and road trips we never took, the street where I once waited for him in the rain because he said he'd be 10 minutes and showed up 45 late, with no umbrella and no apology, And I thought, how many things did I excuse just to stay chosen? The wind howled a little louder. I stopped at a red light, glanced down. His phone buzzed again. Still out? Miss you already. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at the message until the light turned green. Then I turned left, away from home, away from him, because suddenly the car wasn't the only thing I was ready to drive. He never let me in. But that night, I didn't wait for permission. I wasn't wearing perfume that day, but when I hugged him, I smelled roses. Not mine, not anything I owned. Too soft, too floral, too deliberate. He said he missed me, brushed my hair off my shoulder like he used to when he still saw me. Not just looked at me, saw me, the girl who memorized his coffee order, who kept his mother's birthday written in 3 calendars, who waited up when he said, "Just another hour." But that afternoon, something was off. You know that feeling when your body knows before your brain does. He kissed my forehead and walked into the kitchen. I followed, slow, quiet, watching him open a beer with his thumb like always, laughing at some reel on his phone. Nothing looked different, but the air felt different. And that rose scent. It clung to his shirt like a whisper. I wasn't meant to hear. I tried to shake it off. Told myself maybe it was hand soap, or a gift from a client, or my imagination. Because that's what we do, right? When we're afraid of the answer, we make excuses before we even ask the question. He left his phone on the couch when he went to shower, just a strain. Normally I wouldn't. I didn't go through his things. I'm not that kind of woman. But that day, that scent, that sudden silence between us. I picked it up. One swipe. No passcode. He'd changed it a month ago. Said Face ID was acting up. But it worked. Maybe he got lazy. Maybe he didn't think I'd ever look. Either way, I wish I hadn't. Because it was right there. A message from Elle. Of course it had a flower. Of course it did. The screen lit up with just one line. "You still taste like me." I stopped breathing. My ears rang, like I'd gone underwater. My stomach dropped so fast I had to sit down. The couch spun beneath me. The room swayed like it was watching me fall apart, and didn't want to catch me. My fingers moved before I could stop them. I opened the thread. There were more photos, voice notes, a poem she wrote him, and a picture of her hand, wearing his hoodie, my hoodie, the one I bought him last Christmas when he said he didn't want anything. I wanted to scream. Instead, I put the phone down like it was glass. He walked out of the shower, towel low on his hips. Smile lazy. My smile. The one he only used when he thought he was untouchable. "Dinner in 30, he asked. I nodded, because I needed time. Time to process that. My life, my love was a lie, built in lowercase texts, and rose-scented apologies she'd probably never had to make. He went into the bedroom, hummed a tune, something cheerful, careless. I sat at the dining table like a ghost. Every sound in the house felt loud. The clink of forks, the hum of the fridge, the soft drip of the faucet. And I remembered something he told me once. "She's just a friend. She reminds me of my sister." I believed him, because when you love someone, you want to believe them. Even when your gut claws at your ribs and whispers, "He's lying." I looked at the mirror by the hallway, stared at my own reflection, still me, still here. But suddenly, less wanted, less sure, less whole. I didn't cry. Not then. I just stared at myself and thought she smelled like roses, but I was the one who bled. He sat across from me that night, chewing his food, asking how my day was. I answered. I smiled. I laughed at the right places. And every time he looked down at his plate, I stared at the man who broke me, who let someone else wear my scent and call it love. After dinner, he kissed my cheek, told me he was tired, said he loved me. I didn't say it back, just smiled. He didn't notice. He went to bed. I stood in the hallway long after the lights went out, holding that rose-scented hoodie in my hands, pressing it to my chest like it might explain why. Why wasn't I enough? Why did he get to break me and still sleep soundly? Why did I give so much to a man who only gave me versions of himself? At some point, I whispered, I hope she loves you the way I did. Then I folded the hoodie. I placed it on the kitchen counter beside his phone, still unlocked. And I left the house. Not forever, just far enough to remember what air felt like without his lies in it. And tomorrow? Tomorrow he'll wake up and find one thing missing. Me. He said it was our car, but I found out later he chose the leather seats with her. Not me, not the woman who helped pay for it. Not the woman who stood by him when his account balance showed zeros and his pride was in shreds. I was just the one who screamed in it. It happened on a Monday. You know, the kind of day that, so normal it almost dares the universe to ruin it. I'd just gotten off work, still wearing my badge, my keys jangling with a tired rhythm as I walked out into the parking lot. The car was parked right where he said it would be, clean, shiny, his newest pride. Ours, he said when he picked it up. Our reward for everything we've been through. But I'd never sat in it alone, not once. He always drove, always had a reason. You'll scratch the rims. You're not used to the power. It's just a car, babe, don't take it personally. Except I did. I always took it personally. I just never said it out loud. That night, though, something was different. The keys were in the cup holder. The doors were unlocked. It was almost too easy. So I sat in it. At first I just sat. The leather was soft, too soft. I ran my hand across it like I was touching someone else's skin. And I knew. I don't know how, I just knew. Something about the silence, the smell, the slight shift in the seat. There was this sweet, powdery scent lingering. Not my lotion, not my shampoo, and definitely not me. I looked down at the floor mat. A strand of hair. Blonde. Long. I don't know why that's what did it. Maybe because she didn't even try to hide it. Maybe because I'd seen her comment under his Instagram post last week. You look good in red. He told me she was just someone from work. She is married, he said. So was I. My hands started to shake. I gripped the steering wheel, tighter and tighter until my knuckles turned white. And then I screamed. Not loud at first. Just a breathy, broken sound. Like something slipping from inside me that I'd kept quiet for too long. Then again, and again, until I was howling, raw and alone, into a car he said was ours. It echoed, the kind of echo that bounces back colder than it left. Like even the car knew I didn't belong in it. I punched the dashboard. Once. Then again, my chest was on fire. My face was wet. I didn't even know I was crying until I tasted salt on my lip. And you know what the worst part was? No one heard me. No one came, not from the office windows, not from the nearby cars, not even from the building I used to call home. Because that's how betrayal works. It isolates you, makes you feel like the crazy one, like you're overreacting to a truth that's slowly killing you. I rested my head against the steering wheel and whispered, why her? And then, softer, why not me? He always said we were building something. He used words like future and forever, and I believed him. I built my life around his promises like they were bricks, not realizing they were smoke. I thought about the night we first talked about getting a new car, how excited he was, how he pulled up 10 tabs and showed me every color, every model. But when it came time to test drive it, he went alone. Said he just wanted to check the feel. I should have known then. I should have noticed when he stopped letting me play my music, when my opinion became a suggestion he could ignore, when the center console started filling up with receipts I didn't recognize and gum I never bought. I sat there, for what felt like hours, every breath heavier than the last. At some point I looked at myself in the mirror, eyes red, lip trembling, and I thought, she'll never love him like I did. She'll never know how he likes his coffee, or that he hums when he's nervous, or that he talks in his sleep about dreams he never chases. But maybe that's why he chose her, because she didn't know him. Not really, and he liked it that way. Clean slate. No history. No damage. Just another woman he could lie to until she turned into me. I wiped my face with my sleeve. My voice was gone, but my mind was louder than ever. He didn't take the car from me. He took us. Everything we built. Every fight we made up from. Every plan I thought meant something. He hollowed me out, filled the space with leather and horsepower and another woman's scent, and called it ours. But I wasn't going to be the echo anymore. I started the engine, because if he thought this car was the symbol of our love, then he was about to see just how far I was willing to drive it without him. I slept in the garage the night he told me it was just a phase. He meant her, the woman I already knew about, the one he swore was nothing. A rumor, a flirtation, a mistake. But that night, when I asked him calmly, too calmly if it was still going on, he didn't even lie. He just sighed and said, "It's complicated." Like I wasn't a person. Like I was part of his mess. Like my heart was some schedule conflict he hadn't sorted out yet. I didn't yell. I didn't cry in front of him. I just walked past him, through the living room, down the hall, out into the garage, and I closed the door behind me. It was cold. The air smelled like oil and dust and something unfinished. Like him, I sat on the floor beside the car we shared. The same car he took her in, maybe not to a hotel, but to late-night drives and secrets I was never invited to. That was enough. That was betrayal, too. I wrapped myself in the old fleece blanket we kept in the trunk, the one we used on road trips, when we still touched in parking lots and fell asleep holding hands at gas station motels. I stared at the ceiling, the rafters, the light that flickered every few seconds like it couldn't decide whether to stay or leave either. And I thought, this is what breaking looks like. It doesn't explode. It folds in. There's a strange kind of silence that happens after a truth like that. It's not peaceful. It's not even painful. It's just empty, like someone unplugged the music that had been playing in your chest for years. I pulled my knees to my chest, closed my eyes, and I started whispering things I couldn't say out loud. I gave you everything. I believed every version of you. I lost myself in loving you. I don't remember falling asleep, but I remember waking up. Something had changed. Not outside, he was still in the house, probably scrolling his phone like nothing happened, probably blaming me in his head for being dramatic. No, it was me. I woke up different. Not his wife, not his toy, not his fool. Something in me snapped clean, like a final thread giving way after too much weight. Not broken, just free. I sat up. My neck ached. My fingers were stiff, but I felt more alive than I had in weeks, maybe months, and it hit me all at once. I had been waiting, always waiting, for him to choose me again, for him to explain, to apologize, to remember who we were. But why? He wasn't confused. He wasn't torn. He was just done, and I was the one still standing in the fire, hoping he'd reach for me through the flames. No more. I stood up, looked at my reflection in the side mirror. Same face, same eyes, but sharper now. I walked back into the house. Quiet, calm. He was in the kitchen, eating cereal. He looked up. "Did you seriously sleep in the garage?" I didn't answer. He chuckled, like it was funny, like my pain was a joke he didn't mind retelling. Then he added, "You're making this harder than it has to be." And I just looked at him. That's the moment I realized he wasn't sorry, not even a little. He didn't regret her, or the lie, or the slow death he dragged our love through. He only regretted that I finally knew. I poured myself a glass of water, took a slow sip, then I said, "You don't get to have both of us." He paused. "What?" I smiled, not because I was happy, but because I finally understood something he didn't. I didn't need him to end it. I was ending it, and before he could say another word, I set the keys to the house on the table. I didn't need to scream, because I'd already done that. I just needed to walk out and mean it. "She's just a coworker," he said. Then why was her lipstick on my passenger seat? It was subtle, a barely there smudge on the edge of the leather, glossy and red. Not my shade, not anything I owned. But I saw it. The second I opened the door, it was there. Bold as a confession he never had the guts to say. He always told me I was paranoid. That I read too much into things. That I let my imagination ruin what we had. But I wasn't imagining this. The smell was different too. Sweet, synthetic, cheap perfume. the kind that tries too hard to smell expensive. It clung to the air like someone had sprayed it recklessly while laughing. While pretending I didn't exist, I stood there, in the driveway, holding the grocery bags I had bought for us. For dinner I was going to cook him. My fingers gripped the plastic until it hurt. I climbed in, not because I wanted to, but because I had to see. Because my body needed proof for what my heart already knew. The seat was adjusted differently. Farther back, tilted more. She must have been tall. Or maybe she liked stretching out, making herself comfortable in things that didn't belong to her. I dropped the groceries on the floor. One bag tipped over, lemons rolled across the mat. I didn't stop them. I reached into the glove box. I don't even know why, instinct, maybe. And there they were. They were. Receipt, tot, and not, Ed buried, just sitting there, like he really thought I'd never look. Dinner. 2 entrees, a wine I never drank, a boutique I'd never heard of, 1 Uber ride to a hotel 2 towns over, and her name, her full name, right there, on the Uber receipt, attached to his card, our card. I sat back in the seat, held the paper in my hand, and stared through the windshield, like maybe the sun could blind me from what I'd just read. My throat tightened. I swallowed once, twice, then I laughed. Soft at first, bitter, quiet, because he wasn't even smart enough to erase the receipt. He lied to my face with the kind of arrogance that comes from thinking you'll never be caught, from assuming I was too loyal or too stupid to ever doubt him. And the worst part, he almost got away with it. And I remembered every time I'd asked about her. Oh, her? She's harmless, annoying even. I remembered the way he rolled his eyes, the way he made her sound small, important, dismissible, and I believed him, because I wanted to. Because it was easier than admitting the man I loved was capable of betraying me that effortlessly. But now I saw it for what it was. She wasn't just a coworker. She was his escape, his thrill, his proof that he could still be wanted by someone new. And I was just the background, the comfort, the constant. I leaned my head back, stared up at the roof of the car we picked out together, and thought, so this is what it feels like to be replaced while standing still. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was him, a text. Be home in 15. Want Thai. I stared at it. Then I looked around. The car, the receipts, the ghost of her perfume still choking the air, and I felt something break, but not the kind of break that destroys you, the kind that clears the fog. I grabbed the receipts, every single one, folded them once, slipped them back into the glove box, but this time, neatly, intentionally. Then I reached into the side panel and took out my lipstick. My red, I smeared it across the seat, right next to hers. Then I whispered to the empty air, let her wonder about me. I got out, grabbed the groceries, and walked back inside. And I didn't say a word when he came home. Not when he kissed my cheek. Not when he handed me the takeout bag. I just smiled. Because I wasn't going to confront him. I was going to let him lie to me one more time. So I could finally stop lying to myself. He always said I was dramatic, until the day I stood over his car with a gas gain in my hand and no fear left in my chest. No, I didn't key it. I wasn't interested in scratches. I was interested in silence loud enough to haunt him. It started with a dinner he forgot. Not missed, forgot. Our anniversary. 4 years of me showing up, holding space, forgiving, hoping. And he texted me that he was stuck late. Again, I made the table anyway, lit the candles. Put on the perfume he said reminded him of the beginning. But it stayed lit for one, and he didn't come home smelling like work. He came home clean, too clean. The kind of clean that means someone else saw him first. When I asked gently, too gently, he didn't flinch. Just said, can we not do this tonight? That, when I knew, that was the exact moment something inside me tipped. Not shattered, not exploded, just shifted. Because I wasn't angry, I was done. There's a difference. Angry still hopes. Angry still wants something back. Done is quiet. Done is precise. I waited until he left for work the next morning. Same time as always. Same fake kiss on my forehead. He didn't even see the resignation in my eyes. He was too busy making sure her perfume wasn't still on his collar. I watched from the window as he pulled out in that car. Our car. Our car. Or so he said. The car he picked without asking me. The one he drove her around in, thinking I'd never know. But I always knew. Because women like me, we feel it before we see it. I stood there, for an hour after he left, holding my coffee, not drinking it, listening to the hum of the silence he'd made inside me. Then I packed a bag, not to leave, to finish. I drove to the gas station, filled a red canister, paid in cash. The clerk didn't even look at me. I could have been anyone, and maybe I already was. I pulled up to his work parking lot at noon. He always parked in the same spot, second row, right under the camera that hadn't worked since February. I got out, walked straight to the car, and stood there, kid-eyed, not with rage. With clarity, I traced the outline of the car in my head, every lie parked between those tires, every apology locked in the trunk. He didn't know what kind of woman I'd become. He thought I'd cry, or yell, or throw things. But I don't throw. I plan, and I burn. I twisted the cap off the gas can. My hands didn't shake. Not once. I started at the front tire, poured slowly, a line around the base, around the edges, like chalk around a crime scene. Because that's what this was. A crime scene, not just of infidelity but of erosion, of me losing myself, piece by piece. Well, he called it love. A few drops hit my shoe. I didn't care. I kept going. I poured until it circled the car like a ring of fire not yet lit. And then, I stood back, took a long breath. I didn't want to destroy his car. I wanted to mark it, claim it, let it carry my silence forever. I pulled a lighter from my pocket, clicked it once, just once. The flame danced. Small, beautiful, controlled, like me, but I didn't drop it. Not yet. Because as I stood there, holding that flame, something deeper lit inside me. Not revenge. Reclamation. This wasn't about hurting him. This was about finding the woman he'd buried beneath you're overthinking, and it's not a big deal. And you're lucky I stayed. The woman who used to laugh loud, dream big, trust too easily. The woman who once said, "If I ever walk away, you won't even hear the door close." I closed the lighter. I didn't need the fire. The gasoline was enough. He'd see it, he'd know, and he'd never look at that car again without seeing me. I walked away without looking back. Because if I was going to burn, it wouldn't be quietly, and it sure as hell wouldn't be for him. He didn't see me when he walked in. Not at first. But he looked into the mirror behind the bar, then flinched like he'd seen a ghost. Because in his rear view I was sitting at the table behind him. Calm. Still. Staring straight ahead like I hadn't just parked his dream car beside his mistress's. I didn't plan it to be poetic, but it was. He always said the car was his symbol of making it, his proof that the little boy who grew up with hand-me-downs and hollow birthdays had finally arrived. He forgot that I helped him get there, that I co-signed the loan, that I answered phone calls from collection agencies he was too proud to admit to, that I wore the same winter coat for 3 years, so we could put more toward the down payment. But none of that mattered when she came along. The woman in red, always laughing too hard, always leaning in just a little too close. "She's just fun to talk to," he said. "She doesn't mean anything," he said. But I saw the way he looked at her, like she was the break he thought he deserved from me. And tonight, he took her to the same restaurant he took me for our 5th anniversary. I checked the reservation under his name. I checked hers, too. She used a fake last name. A new one. Probably thought it made it sexier, so I beat them there. I parked his car right next to hers, left the keys on the passenger seat. A note folded neatly on the dashboard. "Enjoy your dream. I'm waking up from mine." I wore black, not to mourn, just to disappear. I wanted to be a shadow, not a scene. The waiter seated me with a polite smile, asked if I was waiting on someone. I told him I already had everything I needed. When they walked in, hand in hand, I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I just watched. He looked good, confident, the way he only ever looked when he thought no one was watching. She whispered something in his ear, and he laughed. That same laugh he gave me when I burnt the pasta. And he said, "You're lucky you're cute." He pulled her chair out. Like a gentleman. I guess Betrayal wears a suit and knows how to hold doors open now. Then he turned, probably to signal the waiter, and he saw me. In the mirror, our eyes met in that silent, warped glass. And for 1 second he wasn't smug. He was stunned, caught, small. He turned fully around, like maybe the reflection had been a trick. It wasn't. I lifted my glass, toasted him, didn't smile. He stood there, frozen, his hand still in hers. She was talking, not even noticing his face had turned to ash. He let go of her, took a slow step toward my table. I stayed seated. When he opened his mouth, I spoke first. "Don't cause a scene." My voice was calm, too calm. It scared him. He blinked. "What are you doing here? Returning something that doesn't belong to me anymore." He glanced out the window, saw the car, his car, his car, her car. Now, their cars side by side like the lie they built. He reached into his pocket, checked his keys. Gone. He looked back at me, and for the first time in months, I saw it. Fear. I leaned forward. I left the keys on the seat. The note, too. His lips parted like he wanted to say my name. I shook my head. "Don't. You don't get to use that word anymore." Behind him, she was finally turning around, not laughing now, just confused. Pretty. Hollow. He glanced back at her, then back at me. "Can we talk?" I stood up. We just did. I walked past him, out the door, into the cool night air that felt like freedom. As I reached the sidewalk, I heard him call after me, not loudly, just enough for me to hear. I didn't turn around, but I smiled, because I knew the first thing he'd see when he got to the car was the red lipstick I'd pressed against the steering wheel, and it wasn't hers. He didn't see the phone on the table. He was too busy wiping chocolate from the corner of her mouth with the back of his hand. I watched them like I wasn't real, like I was floating above the table watching another woman watch the life she'd built collapse in front of a creme brulee. I'd invited them both. She thought it was a surprise birthday dinner for him. He thought it was me finally being mature about their situation. I guess no one expected me to smile so softly while handing him a forkful of betrayal. It started 3 nights ago when he came home late again. Another meeting, another long day, another lie. And just like always, he wrapped his arms around me and kissed my shoulder like routine could make up for everything he didn't say. I waited until he was in the shower. Then I checked his phone. I don't know what I was looking for, but I found it. A voicemail. From her. And not the kind of message people leave when they're new. This was intimacy. A tone that only comes from permission, from repetition, from stolen nights that feel sacred because they're hidden. She said his name like it was hers. Said she missed the way he laughed when she whispered things in his ear. Said she hoped I was still clueless. She laughed when she said it. Like I was the punchline. I saved the message. And I made a dinner reservation. I wore red that night. The same shade she wore in that photo he forgot to delete. He raised his eyebrows when he saw me. "You look. Wow." I smiled. "So do you. Happy early birthday." She showed up 20 minutes later. He turned pale. I stood to hug her, kissed her cheek, told her how glad I was she could join us. She laughed, nervous, glanced at him. He avoided both our eyes. We ordered wine, talked about the weather, work, the food, the tablecloths. I told stories about our trips, asked him to finish them. He did, quietly, light, unsteady. She held his hand across the table, smiled like she didn't already know, or maybe like she didn't care. I waited until dessert. Vanilla bean, his favorite. I leaned forward, gently placed my phone between them, and pressed play. Her voice filled the silence, playful, intimate, sharp. She was telling him what she'd do the next time he snuck out. How she wanted to be the only thing he tasted for days. She Called me the problem, said I was too nice, too plain, too proud to fight. He froze. She did, 2 hands still wrapped around his like a vine that didn't know it had been cut. The message ended. Table was so quiet. I could hear the clink of glasses from the table behind us. I reached for my fork, took a slow bite of dessert, and said, "The sugar is a little burnt tonight." He opened his mouth. I didn't let him speak. "You lied to both of us," I said, still calm. "But only one of us believed you." Her face shifted first, eyes darting, mouth twitching like maybe she thought this was a test. He looked down at his plate. Of course he did. I placed a folded letter beside his wine glass. No yelling, no drama, just signatures. She stood up fast, knocked over her water, didn't say sorry. He finally looked at me. "You planned this." I wiped my mouth with my napkin, smiled like I was saying goodbye to something small and dead. "I planned freedom. Yours, I-9, hers." He reached for the letter, hesitated. I stood, picked up my purse, took one last look at the man I thought I loved, and said, "You were the one who always said honesty was sexy." Then I turned and walked away, out of the restaurant, out of the story, and as I stepped into the night air, I knew my silence would echo louder than his lies ever did. I found them on a Tuesday, not in bed, not in some hotel, but laughing too close, too familiar on the sidewalk outside the wine bar he said he hated. And that almost hurt worse, because the lies weren't just in the cheating, they were in the details. I parked across the street, watched through the windshield like I was watching the end of a movie I'd seen coming for months. He leaned in. She giggled, her hand on his chest like she owned it. And maybe she did. I didn't cry, not that night. Instead, I waited until they went inside hand in hand, confident, comfortable, like I'd already been erased. Then I crossed the street, in heels he bought me last Christmas. I walked straight into the bar, calm, collected, dead behind the eyes, but no one needed to know that part. I saw them at the back booth, red light glowing over them like something unholy. She was sipping something pink. He was whispering into her ear, and for a second, just a second, I thought about turning around, pretending I never saw it, letting it destroy me slowly like it had been for weeks. But I didn't. Instead, I walked right up to the table. His face dropped, her smile froze. I placed my hands on the edge of their table and tilted my head. "Mind if I join?" She looked at him like, "Who is this?" He stammered, This isn't." I pulled out my phone, clicked play on the voicemail I'd saved. Her voice, whispering, breathless, saying things no one should ever say about someone else's husband. Her cheeks turned white. He reached across the table. "Please don't." I leaned back, loud enough for every table around us to hear. "Oh, now you care how it looks." He grabbed for my hand. I pulled away like his touch burned. "It wasn't what it looked like," he said, voice cracked and too low. "So I made it worse." I turned to her full volume. He said, "You were just a placeholder, something to pass time while I figured things out." He said he pitied you. Her jaw dropped. She looked at him, eyes wide and drowning. "You said you loved me." And I looked at her, full of fake sympathy. "Oh, sweetie, he says a lot of things." She stood up so fast her drink spilled. "You're both disgusting," she hissed, eyes flicking between us. Then she ran out. He stood, arms half raised, caught between chasing her and facing me. "I didn't say that," he said. "I swear to God." I laughed, a dry, hollow sound. "You didn't have to. I just gave her a taste of your game. How's it feel?" He looked at me like he didn't recognize the woman standing in front of him. And maybe he didn't, because that woman, she wasn't the one who forgave him for late nights and lipstick-stained collars. She wasn't the one who stayed up making excuses while he made someone else feel wanted. That woman had died quietly months ago. And now I was the one in control. "I loved you," he said. Pathetic, honest. "Too late, Tessin, I know," I said, calm as ash. "But you loved her while I was still bleeding for you." He reached for me again. I stepped back. I'll send the divorce papers in the morning. He blinked, stunned. You're serious. I smiled, like I'd rehearsed it. Dead serious. And then I walked out with his silence following me like a shadow. I'd already stepped out of. He always said I wasn't the type to throw a party. So I threw one he'd never forget. No cake, no streamers, no balloons, just a long wooden table under dim lights, wine that tasted like freedom, and women who had walked through fire and come out unrecognizable. It was my divorce party. The invitations were simple, just a photo of my left hand, bare now, holding a lighter. The caption said, RSVP if you've ever been lied to in a suit and tie. 15 women showed up. Some I'd known for years, some I'd only met once at a support group, in a bathroom stall, in a courthouse line. But that night, we all wore the same look in our eyes, tired, sharper now, like we'd cried every tear and were finally ready to stop apologizing. They brought their stories in purses and pockets. One brought court papers. Another brought the necklace he gave her after the affair. Someone else brought his wedding band, said she found it in a glove box, next to a receipt for 2 dinners. Me? I brought my silence, because that's what I wore for the last 2 years of the marriage. That tight-lipped, nod and smile silence, the kind you learn to wear like makeup, the kind that covers bruises no one can see. But not tonight. Tonight, I wore red, not for attention, for resurrection. We sat around that table like survivors do, close, quiet at first, careful not to say too much. But the wine helped. So did the music, and then came the laughter. Not polite laughter. Real laughter. Ugly, honest, gut-deep laughter. The kind you haven't heard from yourself since before the first "Where are you?" me text turned into "Why aren't you enough?" Someone pulled out a tiny metal bowl, a fire-safe dish, and just like that, we started burning things. Rings, photos, handwritten vows. A printed screenshot of a DM that ended a marriage. I held mine between my fingers for a long time. His ring. I remembered the day I slid it onto his finger, how it felt like a promise, like I was sealing something sacred. Now it felt like a receipt I hadn't read the fine print on. I dropped it into the fire, watched it curl and smoke and melt like something that never fit in the first place. Divorce never looked so expensive, or so satisfying. Someone clapped, someone cried, someone toasted to the women we used to be. And I felt it. Not all at once, but like a slow thaw, like maybe I wasn't broken anymore, just rearranged. One of the women leaned over and whispered, "He's going to hate this." I smiled into my glass. I hope he hears about it from someone he tried to sleep with. And God, it felt good, not petty. Honest. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't shrinking myself to fit someone else's love. I was expanding, becoming, rising. They brought out sparklers, little fireworks for big endings. We lit them on the balcony, one by one, like tiny revolutions in our hands. And as mine burned, I whispered to the night sky, "Thank you for leaving," because I never would have. And that's when I saw him. Across the street. In the car he said was too special for me to drive. He hadn't seen me yet, but I saw her. In the passenger seat. Same blonde hair I found on our pillow once. He leaned in to kiss her. And paused, because he heard the laughter, looked up. Saw me holding a sparkler, my hand high in the air, ring finger bare and proud. And I held his gaze. Didn't flinch. Didn't look away. And in that moment, I swear I could see it. The panic, the regret, the realization that I wasn't just gone. I was free. And the pardon, it had just begun. He said he loved me while hiding someone else in the same GPS history. That was the moment I stopped being his wife and became his consequence. It wasn't just the cheating, it was the smugness. The way he stood in front of me with his arms crossed like I was the one making a scene. Like I was overreacting, finding lipstick in a shade I don't wear on a receipt I didn't swipe in our car. His dream car, to be exact. The one I helped finance. The one he spent 6 months obsessing over, down to the stitching in the leather seats and the sound of the custom engine when it started. "It's not about the car," he once said. "It's what it means." Yeah, now it meant something different. Now it meant betrayal. He didn't notice I had taken the keys that morning. Or maybe he did and thought I was still too stunned to do anything. But grief has stages. And that day, I reached the part where silence turns to gasoline. I didn't leave a note. I didn't need to. Let him panic. Let him check the garage, the driveway, the glove box where he hid his little secrets and spare deodorant. Let him wonder. I slid into the driver's seat like I'd belonged there all along. Funny how something so cold can remember your heat. The leather sighed beneath me. The engine purred like it had been waiting for me, not him. I adjusted the mirrors, not because I needed them, because I wanted to watch everything behind me shrink. The moment the tires hit the road, I felt it in my chest. Power. Not the kind that screams, the kind that knows, that hums beneath your skin and says, "You're not running away, you're rewriting it." I didn't have a destination, just distance. Every mile I put between us felt like a word in the new story I was writing. One where he didn't get to be the hero or the villain. Just a footnote. I passed the gas station where he used to buy me snacks when he was still trying. I passed the turnoff to her neighborhood. I passed the memory of every time I swallowed my gut instinct because I was too afraid of losing him. But the truth, I'd already lost him. A long time ago. Maybe the moment he stopped asking me how I slept. Maybe the night he said he was working late and came back with cologne on his neck and no explanation. Maybe the 100 little moments where I told myself, this is just a phase. He'll come back. He didn't. So I drove, faster, louder. I opened the windows and let the wind strip everything off me. His words, his lies, his fingerprints. I turned up the music and screamed into the chorus like the universe needed to know I wasn't his anymore. And the car, it responded. It roared for me. For once, it wasn't his victory lap. It was my escape route. I pulled over at the top of a hill, overlooking the city. The skyline looked small from up there, like every lie I'd believed had been shrunk down to something I could finally walk past. I killed the engine, sat in the quiet, and laughed. Not bitter, not broken, just free, because I realized something. He got the car, but I got the story. The one they'd whisper about at parties. The one his next girlfriend would hear in pieces but never get the full truth. The one he'd try to retell, softer, more flattering. But it won't be his to rewrite. It's mine. I didn't just drive away. I left skid marks on the chapter he thought I'd stay in forever. And when I finally turned the key again, ready to go wherever I chose this time, I checked the mirror once more and whispered, "Try outrunning that."